Seattle Sports Show coming to you from Renton, the Seahawks headquarters here on the shores of Lake Washington as we get you ready for the NFL Draft. Alongside Chris Egan and this man, Dave Wyman from Seattle Sports 710, the Wyman and Bob Show. You can catch him every day at 2 o'clock. And, of course, he is a Seahawks great. You know what? I want to start with you. What's your feeling as we start this big draft day and 3-day event?
Everybody knows exactly what John Schneider is going to do, right? I mean, yeah, it's obvious. He's going to trade back, right? So, I mean, he said that the other day, and I don't know if I don't think he spends a lot of time trying to, do counterintelligence type of things, but probably he will move back. I mean, I think that's what we're all going to be sitting around waiting for a pick, and it's probably going to get traded back. That's my best guess. But you never know what John Schneider is going to do.
Yeah. You don't.
And he might, you and I talked about this, like they sign JSN to this huge contract. They sign Shaheed. They do a lot of work to get Jake Bobo back here. Watch him take a receiver at number 32, right? I mean, if there's the best player is a wide receiver, that's what John's going to do.
Like you said, you never know what he's going to do. I'm going to be honest, he may move back. We're all looking forward. It's happy draft day, guys.
Yeah.
But, I mean, help me out here. I mean, we're at Seahawks headquarters. I was in Italy all summer long, and during the winter time, for the Olympics. We won a Super Bowl, didn't we? I feel like we're just not celebrating this enough, guys. I mean, we're all looking at the draft, but come on. I mean, what a year it's been. It's great to be back. Great to be with you two. I mean, Paul's on the parade. You're on the parade. I mean, this is a special place to be, and it's a good thing to be picking number 32, isn't it?
Well, that's exactly right. I heard somebody say, hey, they had a championship offseason because they did. Everybody's going to kind of pilfer your roster a little bit because you have the right combination of players, and then you're going to pick 32. So yeah, I mean, I don't look at it like they got worse necessarily in the offseason because they signed JSN to the big deal, and he's a fantastic player. So yeah, I mean, I think people are kind of wringing their hands a little bit because, like, did we do enough in the offseason? You go and look at the roster still, and there's some really good players still left, even though you lost a running back, a safety, a corner, and an edge rusher.
And you gained a Lombardi trophy, by the way.
There you
That's
go.
right. Yeah. We'll take that.
And, before we get to what's on tap, I want to ask you, Dave, you're taken in the second round back in 1987 by the Seahawks. Can you tell us a little bit about what you remember about your draft day?
Man, I had really no idea where the weirdest thing that happened was about 15 years ago. Jim Mora told me he was a young coach for the Chargers, and he told me that there was a huge fight over me and a guy named Rod Bernstein, and that they were going to take me in the first round, the Chargers were. And I guess the clock was like ticking down, and the guys are arguing, and finally the owner of the Chargers steps in and goes, just take Bernstein. And so he told me this story, and he's like, it was wild. And I'm like, I had no idea that was going on. I wouldn't be sitting here with you two guys, if the Chargers had taken me. I'd have a different wife, different kids. I mean, so that's the thing on draft day, because most people choose where they're going to go. If you're a good player in college, you got a bunch of guys sitting around in a film room deciding what your destiny is going to be.
Yeah. And you were watching video. You were playing video games that day, or what? Take us through when you got the call.
When I got the call, I was with my family, and we were at my brother's condo down in Reno, Nevada, because he had cable. Nobody else had cable. And so it was on ESPN. So we all stayed the night there and woke up early. I was with my family, and and then the Seahawks called me, and I was like, oh, okay,
man,
well, I guess I'm going to Seattle.
That's a time capsule right there. Cable TV, big deal. That's awesome, man. All right, let's take a look at what's on tap for today's show. Of course, we're going to preview the NFL draft and take a deep dive into what the Seahawks are going to do, and maybe nothing today except trade down and get a couple more picks. We'll talk more about John Schneider, and we're also going to be joined by Brock Hewitt a little bit later on in the show. So it's great to have two former Seahawks with us. Fortunate to have Dave Wyman with us to kick it all off here. And Dave, you look at this. I'll ask you, play GM John Schneider for a minute. Where do you see the biggest need for this team?
Well, I mean, I guess running back is where I think a lot of people think is, and I agree with that, and you never know exactly, there's a number of guys that kind of fit the mold for, what they want to do offensively. It's just a matter of who has that special little quality that Brian Fleury, the new offensive coordinator, is going to like. So, yeah, you look at like Jonah Coleman, for example, kid from UW. I mean, he runs great on the inside, and that's really what K9 did, and that's what you're going to be missing. But yeah, that's probably the biggest position of need, I would say. You lose an MVP of the Super Bowl, and then you want to run the ball, and that's going to be the same thing with Fleury as it was with Kubiak.
Yeah, we heard that a whole lot last year, Dave, about running the ball. You mentioned Jonah Coleman. Another name coming out there is Jadarian Price. And interesting, you start this show, Dave, with we all know what he's going to do is trade down, and I have to say, it's happy draft day. It feels like Christmas for people, but Seahawks fans are all coming down. They're getting around the Christmas tree. They're going to have to hold off a little bit here. It's been a good, because there's a chance they don't make a pick today, guys. They could drop from 32. We heard Rob Rank, Paul, he was on our show earlier this week talking about possibly trading with Arizona, moving down and possibly moving to 34, which would be a pick tomorrow. But still an exciting time. I think you're right, Dave. I think running back is a position of need. We're also hearing a whole lot about edge rushers.
Yeah, and that's another one. You lost Boye Mafe, but the thing about Boye, love Boye Mafe, but they were rumored to they were trying to trade him at the deadline last year, so that was not really, I don't see that as a big loss, considering you were going to trade him away anyway. So, so he signed a big deal and got a lot of money with both him and Reek Woolen on a prove-it deal. So, yeah, I mean, I don't see any of the losses that they have as being nearly as tough as the running back position. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of players. It's just, the thing is, John looks for a special quality. Also, with Mike McDonald, more than ever, they're looking for really good people. And I know a lot of people think that's corny, but that was kind of the secret sauce for this team this year, is that everybody cared about each other. You got a bunch of competitive guys making millions of dollars, and this is like a high school team, basically. The guys rooting for each other, helping each other out. So, yeah, it's that you don't really know. You don't really get that in the scouting report for the draft of what kind of guy is this guy. They're looking for family guys. They're looking for people that are gonna support one another.
No, I think you nailed it there. I mean, it is a Seahawks special sauce, because when times are down and maybe there's a tough loss, you've got to come together as one, and we saw that all season long with the Seahawks team.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I just think it's something that Mike McDonald has built, and John Schneider as well, and they're looking for good people. So that's why you never really know exactly who John's going to take.
Yeah, well, we heard that a lot in his press conference the other day, and Mike said the same thing. True Seahawks. That's what they're looking for, and that kind of quality. All right, let's, as we sit here currently outside Seahawks headquarters, we should tell you the current picks for the Seahawks. First round, second round, third round, sixth round. So nobody has fewer picks than the Seahawks. As we sit here right now, they have just 4 total. But, you sit here, Dave, and you think about Mike McDonald's mindset and the fact that this team won on defense last year, and they're going to have to replace some guys. So do you think they're going to lean more defensively in this draft or offensively?
Yeah, I still think the running back thing takes precedence over anything. So I think that would be you mentioned Jadarian Price, great player. The other thing about him, he had 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns.
Very good on special teams.
Yeah, so if, a lot of teams are going to be, they just locked up Shaheed for a long period of time, and they're going to try to kick away from him on kickoffs. So if you have another really good returner back there, I think that makes him really valuable to this team.
Well, and I think something we've also seen with this draft, Dave, in past drafts, there's been, 20 to 25 running backs on the board. Yeah. This year's draft, a lot of the draft experts saying there's only 8 to 10 running backs out there. We mentioned a couple of them, Price and Jonah Coleman, Mike Washington Jr. out of Arkansas, Singleton out of Penn State. These are some of the names, but there's not, in years past, you could pick up a decent running back in round 4 or 5. They may not be there for you in round 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, no question about it. So I think it's kind of funny because the NFL really sort of devalues running backs. And, the Seahawks, they could have spent another $3 million to get K9. And, they because they signed Shaheed. So, and they don't really, I don't know. If you look at it, I think a lot of fans aren't worried that much about receiver depth. So, but yeah, it's interesting how it seems to be that's the position that everybody wants is running back when really the NFL doesn't really pay running backs, big contracts.
And I'd go back to, this is a Super Bowl team, guys, and looking back to last year's draft, and we sat here literally a year ago, what does this team need? Offensive linemen. What did they do? They went out and got one, and Gray's able. Definitely helped the cause.
And let's take a look at some of their first-round picks in recent history because John Schneider has hit it big time when it comes to the last few years, for sure. Gray's able, as Chris mentioned, first-round pick last year. Byron Murphy the year before that. They got Witherspoon and JSN in the first round the year before that. Charles Cross. And then in 2021, they didn't have a pick. When you look at those first-round picks, your man John Schneider seems to really have his finger on the pulse of what's going on and having a great scouting team behind him.
Yeah, and I think also the support from Mike McDonald as well. They kind of see things the same way, and I look, Pete obviously was fantastic. He was kind of in charge of everything, and he had the final say, and they worked really well together. For a number of years, they brought us a world championship. So you can't really, but I think right now John's in a kind of a sweet spot right now with Mike McDonald, and they see things the same way. So I think that connection with, from upstairs to downstairs, the scouts and the management and the coaches, they're aligned right now.
As we sit here on this draft day, Dave, and we begin this show celebrating the Super Bowl, you played this game, you watched this game, you're on post-game shows with Paul Sylvie. I mean, you were around the Seahawks 7 days a week. What Mike McDonald has done in such a short term, how impressive is that?
It's incredible. It really is. Yeah. Usually it takes a while to get going, and really, he had 10 wins the first year that he came in. They didn't make it to the playoffs, but yeah, it's amazing how Mike is a very direct communicator. There's not a lot of fluff in the things that he says, and he knows exactly what he wants. He was put on this earth to be a head coach, and he's just in the right spot right now, and he's got the right guy supporting him in John Schneider. So just a perfect connection, and that whole thing all comes from also ownership. Great job. It all comes from the top down. So, and I know that ownership is going to change this year, but or in the next couple of years. But yeah, I mean, I think they just were meant for each other, John Schneider and Mike McDonald.
Mike said earlier this week at the press conference that this is not Schneider's first rodeo, and he knows he's got good people that he's working with. And he also made a comment that he knows his role now. When it comes to this time of year, more than he did 2 years ago. He feels like he's comfortable. He knows what's expected of him right now, and I think he feels much more relaxed just saying, you know what? I don't need to be in this room and giving him all this kind of input because John's got this thing covered and he knows his role.
Yeah, John's been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's funny, he came in 2010 and, he was kind of one of the younger GMs, and now he's kind of the guy that everybody looks up to.